Oh shit, are we live? I think so. What's up, yo? Good morning, everybody. What's happening? It's sun glare season right now. I really want to change it though. I like it. It feels good. Got a fine new coffee mug today. Just a little morning reminder for y'all. Yeah, what's up, everybody? What's up, world? What's up, YouTube? Happy Friday to y'all. A fine Friday morning. Sir, yes, sir. Oh, yeah, it's cold. It's cold. I wonder how cold. I think my John said like 3 degrees. Oh, it's 6 degrees now. Yeah. What's up, yo? Good morning. Being a bitch is un-American. Just a little morning reminder for y'all. Happy Friday. Good morning. Welcome to this fine Friday edition of BS with Hannas with the sun in my motherfucking face. Some eminence on this fine Friday. Whole premise of this show is I'll wake up and I'll take a nice walk. I'll read some good stuff. I'll talk to the people, go lift some weights, go to work, go about my business. Hey, yo, Jerome's in the chat. What's up, dude? Good morning, King. Good morning, sir. Yeah, man. So I fucking did exactly that this morning. You know, I like to come out here afterwards and talk about what I've read, talk about what I'm thinking about, this or that or what's going on out there, what's going on up in here, see what's helpful, what's not helpful. Just kind of run my mouth for a few minutes before I go about my business. There's a value in that. I enjoy it. I still can't quite tell how much of it's selfish or selfless, but that's okay. That's a fun thing to navigate. It's a lot more fun of a thing to navigate than constant, unceasing fixation and vexation on what's going on out in the world, man. Because it's fucked up. Everybody's like, this is what I got today. Because I've been talking about the ice storm all week. Because it's dominating. It's dominating the headlines. It's dominating the airwaves. It's dominating our brain waves. And as it all progresses, it's turning into the familiar call to action. The propaganda is in full effect on both sides of it. And our opinions shouldn't be bound to a side, even if our opinions tend to fall on a side. I think there's a noteworthy distinction there. But as with all things, once the big event happens, the black swan event of sorts, maybe not the black swan, but a black swan nonetheless, as it happens, and then it creeps through culture. In my particular domain of culture, what I like the most out of most things out here is music. I make music. I'm a guitar player. I sing a little bit. I write songs. I publish them. I put them out there. You can find them. I call it heavy blues metal. You can find it online, Nikki Be Honest. And I'm not political in my shit. I'm not a political musician. I'm not a political artist per se. But I'm aware of the line of thinking that all art is political. All art, many people say, many such cases. They say that all art, the very act of creating art, is a political thing. It is resistance. It is a movement towards the liberation. Some of us just like to fucking play the guitar. You know what I mean? When I think of what I like, particularly, let's start with metal. Metal is focused aggression. Metal is a disciplined execution of a powerful self determination. At least that's how I look at it. It's a vehicle for storytelling, it's a vehicle for literature in many ways. The technical proficiency and specific, just directly metal attitude and attack lends itself to a high art, even if it's not always high art. You know what I mean? Of course, there's lowbrow bullshit. For every band like Cannibal Corpse, there's a band like Opeth. There's a band like Agalloch. Like, just a quick couple examples. They're not all Slayer, just mindless ramblings and just aggression, but it sure has its place. It has the potential and the capacity for higher oriented things, though. That's not necessarily a political thing, even if all these guys back in the 80s were like, fuck Reagan. You know what I mean? Like, it's not inherently anything. It's a convention. It's a thing people do. It's a mode of expression. It's a art form. It's no more inherently political than painting. Are paintings used in revolutions? Of course. Are paintings symbolically adopted to represent the zeitgeist of a time? Of course. But that's not necessarily always the intent, which then turns into the question of authorial intent versus how it's received and embraced in the world. I think this stuff is very interesting. And I'm not one of the people that insist on it all being a political act inherently. What other kinds of music do I like? Rock and roll? Shit. You can make the argument that rock and roll is very political in the sense that where did it come from? The 60s? The 60s counterculture? Sex, drugs, rock and roll. Tune in, drop out. You could say that for sure. But it still becomes a mode of expression. It still becomes a feeling, regardless of whatever created it, you know? Is it protest music, especially in the 60s? Yeah. Yeah, you can't really take away the political leanings of it, you know? In the Vietnam era, in the civil rights era. Absolutely. Absolutely. But, the Rolling Stones were writing songs like Mother's Little Helper long before they were writing Gimme Shelter, you know? Jimi Hendrix was writing Foxy Lady before he did Machine Gun. So it's a living thing, thus the artistic element. I find it interesting, but I still don't think it's inherently always political. Because just because that's how rock and roll had become mainstream in like the white American world at least. What was how did rock and roll really start? From the blues. And then you got Little Richard and Chuck Berry, you know? How political is a song called Lucille? How political is Good Golly Miss Molly? Probably not that political, you know? Not everything in life has to be political. Right. I tend to agree with that. But as we, as I at least, as I make sense of the world I'm living in and I look around and, you know, kind of keep one ear to what's going on, everything evidently is political. You know, what other kind of music do I really like? Punk rock. Punk rock is inherently a movement of politics. I'm not brutish and illiterate to not know that. You know, punk rock came from queer spaces. Punk rock came from disimpoverished or impoverished spaces. You know, it's all super pertinent, but it's not the be all end all. That's my kind of big thing. It's not the be all end all. Even if something like punk or early hardcore started as a political movement, then eventually you still have songs by bands like, I don't know, let's just say The Offspring. And how political really is a song called Mota or Pretty Fly for a White Guy? Well, that's not real punk. Okay, I get it. I understand. How political is like the emo scene, the real emo thing, or the skate punk bands? How political is it? Not every band is making a political statement. And just like Metallica at one point had songs like, Disposable Heroes, Leper Messiah, you know, they also had songs like Phantom Lord. Okay. Metal Militia. So they're writing songs about rocking and rolling. It's not always a motherfucking political thing. Only because social media has brainwashed everyone into thinking so. See, that's not even the case though. Because I was learning this shit in 2014, 2015 in like college. As I was getting into studying the art implications in the political realm. It's not just because of social media. Social media exacerbates the shit out of it for sure. But it's a middle ground, because when I pick up my guitar and I start to write a song, I'm not making a political statement. I'm not coming out here thinking, God bless Donald Trump. Salute to the president. I promise. That's not something that enters my brain. Now, the opinions matter and the ethos of the musician or the artist matter, of course. But to what extent is hard. What other kind of music do I really like? The blues. I mean, the blues is rooted in the Black American experience, the tradition and genealogy, the lineage of slavery. This is just what it is. It came from those old guys in the Delta. It came from those guys who ain't had two nickels to rub together. Buddy Guy famously created his first guitar in a little shack in Lettsworth, down south. All those guys, man. Sunhouse, Robert Johnson, Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf. That's where it all came from to me. And I love that shit because these men were not victims. They transcended their victimhood through their art. They found this thing that they loved, that they were called to do. They had this calling to pursue this thing, and they chased that dream. They chased that vision by any means imaginable. And then eventually they moved up north, mostly, primarily to Chicago. BB King was out in Nashville, if I understand history correctly. But once that Chicago scene took off, that was the whole game changer. And these guys were working shitty jobs throughout the day just to go play in the blues joints, in the juke joints at night. And that's a hustle. That's a grind. Working men, not victims. You know, people think the blues is just crying about my baby that left me. There's always a punchline. It's finding that punchline. It's finding that sliver in what seems to just be a whole bunch of bullshit. But you know what you do when there's a whole bunch of bullshit? Persist. You keep going. You keep chasing it. And that's not inherently necessarily a political thing. Are there politics involved? Of course there are. Insofar as we live in a country, insofar as we live in a nation, that we're governed by laws of gods and men. But politics are always involved. But I don't know. What are the politics of Mustang Sally? They're not always there. So I'm saying all this to say, almost if it's like a type of apologetics, which is not necessary. But these motherfuckers now making everything so political. Everything now. It's the equivalent to the I stand with Ukraine. It's the equivalent to the you have to put this black square in your Facebook picture. You have to put this frame around it. Stay home, save lives. It's happening again. The scripts are going out. The scripts are going out. The propagandists are working full time, and it's disorienting. It's fucking confusing, and it's attention grabbing. It's captivating, especially if one is even slightly politically minded. Because what happens, you're in here in the chat saying not everything has to be political, and it's only because social media has brainwashed everyone into thinking so. True as that may be, what happens when you're, with your family, and all of a sudden your cousin is just saying, "Yeah, fuck ICE." Oh, whoa, whoa, we were just talking about Uncle John or whatever. Now you're bringing this shit up. What happens when you're in a group chat with a bunch of friends and dudes you genuinely really admire and like, you know? And here comes the obligatory, yeah, fuck Trump. It's like, brother, we were talking about what we're eating for dinner next Tuesday night. Where is this? Where's this coming from? I don't get it. It's this compulsion that a lot of people have, and it fucking bugs me. And I find it. So here's lifetime insight into the Hannas mind. I do find it to be like sad, man. I find it to just be a degraded state of things because I'd like to ignore it when I hang out with my artist friends and when I'm in artist spaces. And, it's almost like a presupposed thing that we're all on the same side. So what happens when you dissent and you're not the one on the same side? You ready for the smoke? Is there smoke to be had? I don't know. I don't love the fact that we have to live in this way, but I guess it's nothing new. I guess it's nothing new. Now, what's triggering me to go on this diatribe is not unexpected, but here's something from what's this from Loudwire, I think. Yeah, I think it's from Loudwire. They posted because everyone's talking about it now. Bruce Springsteen's doing this band's doing that, everyone else is doing this. Rah rah rah! Get ICE out of here! Get the Gestapo out of here! Fucking guys that made their millions playing guitar. And I ain't made nothing playing my guitar, and I got the same opinion. So I guess they're entitled to it. But it bothers me because I just want to keep going on and fucking playing my guitar. But if this is the state of things, sometimes it strikes me in a way where it's like, man, fuck this. If this is the crowd, if this is the world, if these let's just suppose they're my peers. I don't always want no parts of it. Just because I disagree, yeah, kind of. Not even that. But don't make me a fucking villain. Don't make me a fucking enemy. You know? And I feel like that's kind of what's going on. I try not to make these people my enemies. Even the commies. Shit, even the commies. I feel bad for the commies among us because they're wounded people. They're sad. They're disenfranchised. They're hopeless. They're down on their motherfucking luck. And they ain't even got the punchline to persist through it. They ain't really got the blues because they're ready to quit. They want an excuse to quit. They fucking can't wait to be given a reason to quit. The dramatics of it, the histrionics of it. That's just my opinion. It's victimhood materialized and personified. That's how I see it, at least. But anyway, what I saw on Loudwire is a classic example. Many such cases. Here's a statement from Randy Blythe from Lamb of God. He says that if you are an artist like me, do not remain silent in the face of all the cruelty, inhumanity, and corruption. This is where you ain't wrong, but I don't think you're right either, dude. He goes on to say, use your voice. Do not be a coward, because while I do not know how long this regime will last, I do know that it will eventually end. All of them do. To my fellow musicians, writers, photographers, and other artists of all stripes who may be scared to speak out, to use your voice, know that this is our time. Swallow your fear and speak truth to power. They love saying that shit. Speak truth to power. This is what we were put here to do. So raise your voices now, motherfuckers, now. I will leave you with a quote from Frederick Douglass. Let the record show. Everybody should read Frederick Douglass's book, A Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, as written by himself. It is crucial reading. A slave who fought his way to freedom ended up moving up north and befriending Lincoln, and I believe being in Lincoln's cabinet. Massively important historical figure. Frederick Douglass was, in fact, a bad motherfucker. So here's a quote, probably a misquote. I doubt the context is correct, but that's the nature of this propaganda bullshit age we find ourselves in. The quote that he says, I will leave you with a quote from Frederick Douglass. Find out just what any people will quietly submit to, and you have found out the exact measure of the injustice and wrong which will be imposed upon them. So, yeah, that triggers me. I love Lamb of God. At least I did. I haven't been good in a few years, in my opinion. But those first like 5 or 6 albums are fucking just classics. Just classics. And Mr. Blythe has always been what we call a lib. So no surprises, no surprises. But I fucking feel a type of way about that. Here I am trying to be this, and hopefully I don't sound like a fucking victim here. But here I am trying to carve out a path for myself. Here I am doing things every day to fucking move that needle a bit closer. I'm trying to stay productive. I'm trying to be genuine. I'm trying to be authentic. I'm trying to do all the right things, I like to think. And you're going to just imply one of the big dogs in the game, just going to imply to me that, well, we're not cut from the same cloth over a disagreement of opinion. Yeah, it's interesting, man. It lends itself to the broader Bezmenov, the KGB defector. Oh, where's my connection is unstable. They hear me talking about commies. Oh no, you guys still there? Hello. Hopefully I'm still here. But yeah, what's up, Maddie? Good morning, dude. He said the last album rules. Yeah, I haven't even listened. I haven't listened to anything after like Chris Adler left, to be honest. So maybe I'm just a hater and like whatever. Who am I to criticize these dudes? Who am I to give a shit? I'm nobody in the game, dog. These are the big dudes out here. But I don't love hearing all this shit. I don't love seeing all these people out here just fucking banging the drums. Because then when shit escalates, as shit tends to escalate, how long until it tends to affect me? You know what I mean? And how wrong am I? Even if I feel righteous, even if I feel like I'm standing strong in my own principles and convictions, and has to say, at one point, am I right or am I wrong? Not always too certain. So, nevertheless, we keep ripping. We keep doing what we're doing anyway. What's the famous Bill Belichick quote? What's he tell his players? What's the secret? Do your job. What does Marcus Aurelius say? Get up and do your job. Go to your duty. Keep going. And that's it. That seems to be the truth. Fuck all this other bullshit going on out here. You know, New book I'm reading is called Irrational Persistence by Dave Zilko. Massive success story about a couple guys who started a salsa company by making salsa in 5-gallon buckets in the back of their restaurant. Grew from nothing to, as I understand it, a couple hundred millions of dollars worth of fucking business. So this shit can be done. Irrational persistence. And that's a great title. That's a great ethos. That's a great thing. That's a great thing to hold on to. Because F all this, dude. F all this. Being made to have an opinion, having to stand in a certain way. What's the line? Eye of the beholder, Metallica. You can do it your own way if it's done just how I say. I'm just saying, you know, freedom of choice, all that shit, man. That's kind of what I'm thinking about today. And it gets confusing sometimes, but no matter how confusing it is or is not, you know what it doesn't do? It doesn't lift the weight for you. You know what is a great metaphor for life generally? The bench press. You know what today is? It's Friday. You know what that means? It's chest and arm day. So I've had enough of this. I'm past the 20-minute mark. It's time to roll, everybody. Appreciate y'all. Happy Friday. Keep it real. Thanks for hanging out with this fine Friday edition of BS with Hannas. With me. That's what I call myself out here. Nikki B. Hannas. Maybe one day they'll find my government name and they'll dox me. Nah, just kidding. There's only a couple of y'all in the chat and ain't no one watching my shit anyway. So you know what? Who gives a fuck? Let me just do my thing. If I got a call to do something, just fucking do it. And hopefully it doesn't backfire. And if it does, well, persist irrationally. Thank you guys. Happy Friday. BS with Hannas on YouTube at BS with Hannas. Goes out to Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, so on and so forth. I make music, heavy blues metal, typically apolitical, more autobiographical, writing about my own life. So take that for what it is. How dare I? NikkiBHannas.com, NikkiBHannas.bandcamp.com, Nikki B. Hannas on all streaming services. You want to support the mission? You want to see all the work condensed into one solid feed? Music, talk, so on and so forth. Patreon.com/Nikki B. Hannas. Appreciate y'all. Happy Friday. Keep it real. One love later. And don't forget, being a bitch is un-American.